I don't ever look at bad guys as being more fun than good guys, honestly. You know, good guys are fun too if it's a cool part.
I feel like your character, Elizabeth, is like one of those kind of take care of business women. Can you like talk to me a little bit about like how your character is breaking the mold in like 80s related like directing and filmmaking, and how Mia is breaking the mold in the horror movies?
I could talk about Mia all day, and also the character. So when I read the script, so Ty sent me the script, and I was a little dubious because I hadn't watched Pearl and X. Everyone had told, so many people whose cinema opinion I deeply respect had told me to watch these films, but I was a scaredy cat, so I hadn't watched them yet. Then I read MaXXXine, and it was, one, so entertaining, but two, as a woman, extremely satisfying to read a horror heroine who was doing. One of the things that sometimes you struggle with being a woman on film is you get to a certain part of the story and you think, why am I doing that? Why would I say that? You know, and so if you have enough power as an actress, you can negotiate some of that stuff with, because essentially you want the character to be as intelligent as a little bit more intelligent than the audience. That would be ideal. So you kind of have to negotiate that. And what I found on the script was that Ty had already done that for Mia. And so MaXXXine was very satisfying for me to read because she was ahead of the ball, and she wasn't like struggling to open the lock and key, and she wasn't that person. So I loved it from that. I wanted to be a part of it because of that. And then Liz Bender, I thought, was a great kind of mouthpiece for women in the industry. Yes, it's sort of a woman in the 80s, but it's extremely relevant still. And I think that she there were a very small handful of women who were given the opportunity to make things, and they made incredible films that still really hold up, but it was a small group of people who were given that. And we're in a different time, but women still have to fight very hard for the space to tell women's stories, because women think in the language of women and men don't necessarily, so we still have to fight really hard for that space in cinema. But I just liked that she felt both of that time and modern, and what she was sort of saying in that monologue about fighting the status quo and kind of having to work very hard. I liked that vulnerability in her too, that she was open, but also that her role in the movie is to open the door for MaXXXine. And someone asked me the other day, what would you hope the kind of story of that, like their character stories would be if it continued? And I said, well, I hope that Liz called her for the next film and MaXXXine was too busy. And Liz would love that. And that's the dynamic. I love that.
Kevin, I was reading that you were a fan of Pearl and X. Did you reach out to Ty to become part of this movie? Like, how did you get involved?
I reached out to Ty, but I didn't know about the movie. I just reached out to Ty just because I wanted to, meet him and talk to him. I try to do that when I can, If I see something that I think someone did a good job with, I'll either try to get an email or something just to say, hey, great. And I try to do that with performances, too. I feel like there is sometimes we have this kind of, we sometimes lack community in the film business. It is a strangely, unlike theater, it's a strangely kind of isolating industry, So I've always found that going to somebody and saying, hey, whatever, let's talk, or, sometimes can be, even if it doesn't lead to a gig, even if it's not transactional, it's just a nice thing to do. And so, yeah, so we had a Zoom, and then he said, "Look, I got this movie. If you want to read it."
How much fun was it playing the bad guy? Like, he was like this slimy, sweaty throwback to like Philip Marlowe, like PI detective.
I don't ever look at bad guys as being more fun than good guys. Honestly, I think that what's fun is good, interesting, well-rounded, complicated characters that you can work on with a director who's collaborative and strong and has a great vision, and you get to do it with great actors. So, I've heard that a lot of times where someone says, "Well, the bad guy must be fun." Good guys are fun too if it's a cool part.
The styling for your costume was very interesting because it was so much like a throwback and not into that 80s like PI. Did you style your character after the costume, or was this a kind of a collaborative effort that you had with the team?
It was a collaborative effort. One of the first things that we talked about was certainly to establish this kind of, you know, Tennessee Williams linen-suited New Orleans kind of thing, and also the fact that he wasn't caught up, and certainly New Orleans isn't caught up to LA in the 80s, right? So he was still kind of another era. There's a really subtle thing there that I don't really think you quite see. It might be because there was some scene that was cut, I can't remember. But the second outfit that I have on, in our minds, he went shopping for when he got to LA, you know, in his off time. And it was a little bit more Robert Evans, if you're familiar with it, that producer, you know, kind of turtleneck and over, you know, sweaters and you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Maxing those up with the keys and so I get blood all over it, and so then I have to change back to the other suit. I mean, these are the things that a really great costumer, you know, will be part of and will walk you through, and it's one of the things I love about making movies is that all of the crafts are artists and creative people, you know, and they help deliver Ty's vision and my vision, our vision, and you know, it's a lot of fun.
Like the video? Then hit the button, or better yet, drop us a comment. Then check out our latest videos here, and don't forget to subscribe by hitting the button here for more celebrity interviews and entertainment news.